Good evening and welcome to the November 19th meeting of the Hickory City Council. I'd like to welcome everybody here. It's always nice to see active and engaged citizens participating in our council meetings. At this time, I would like to ask the Reverend Sandy Hood to the podium for our invocation. Reverend Hood is at Peace United Church of Christ in Carolina, Cary. Sandy, thank you for being here this evening. If you would stand for the invocation and remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please pray with me. God of yesterday, God of today, and God of tomorrow, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come and meet together, to fellowship, to remind one another that we are connected in community. I pray, O Lord, that you might bless this council, and may your wisdom and your discernment and your peace settle over them. God, as a community, we are so thankful, and we pray that we might be the kind of people that you would want us to be. We pray this all in the name of the Prince of Peace. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We always allow an opportunity at the beginning of each of our council members for anyone that would like to address the council. We don't have anyone that's signed up to do that tonight, but it's not necessary that you sign up. If you would like to address the council, we will allow you the opportunity to be able to do that. We just ask that you come to the podium and that you state your name and address, and that you limit your conversation to 3 minutes or less. So at this time, I'll ask if there's anyone present that would like to address the council this evening. All right, there doesn't appear to be anyone that would like to address the council this evening. I'll just remind you that you don't necessarily have to wait until a council meeting to be able to do that. We all make ourselves available, and that information to contact us is on the city website. So please take advantage of that. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our regular meeting of November the 5th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion or any discussion.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? That carries unanimously. Item number 7 is reaffirmation, ratification on second readings, and once again, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? That also carries unanimously. Item number 8 is our consent agenda. I'll ask if there's any member of council or staff that would like to have any item removed from the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, the consent agenda passes unanimously. We have 2 departmental reports this evening. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Warren Wood, to introduce our first departmental report.
Thank you, Mayor Guest, members of the City Council, Mr. Swanson. The first presentation tonight from departments is approval of sale of city-owned property located at 1560 4th Avenue Southeast in the amount of $400,000. It is the approval of a sale upon successfully moving through the upset bid process. So if that doesn't happen, if they're not successful, then their bid gets upset. If you approve the resolution to begin the upset bid process, we would come back with who the next bidder is and what that project might be. But this was one we received. So Fairbrook Optimist. So we have received a offer to purchase the property at Fairbrook Optimist Dog Park. Is 7.27 acres. About an acre of it's in floodplain. It's located in an industrialized area off of Tate Boulevard. It's kind of hard to see from Tate Boulevard. It was formerly utilized as a softball field, and then a number of years ago converted to a dog park. And there's a a large parking area there for about 250 parking spaces as well. So we received an offer to purchase that property from iChurch, which is contiguous to this property, their church and some surrounding property that they own. So they've made an offer to purchase of $400,000. They've committed an additional $25,000 donation for city parks. It is not part of their offer to purchase, but they have offered an additional donation on top of the purchase price. They would allow the city to continue to use the dog park while we work to develop 2 new dog parks, which I'll talk about in a second if this were to come to pass. Fairbrook Optimist, again, is adjacent to iChurch. The church membership there is anticipating from growing from 1,450 members to over 2,100 members, and they believe that that's the point at which they're the max capacity of their church in terms of membership, but they are planning on growing. So again, the dog park's located in a heavily industrialized area. As that church continues to grow, to some degree, it's going to impact the dog park there because the church has a lot of traffic that comes through there. iChurch seeks to create a campus-like environment, including a park that would be open to the public, which would include an initial $2 million investment on their part. Again, that's not something that's considered as part of their offer. That's just what their plans are. And it'd be a multi-use mini athletic field, lighted walking trails, a pavilion, and a playground. And the Parks, Recreation, and Sports Tourism Commission unanimously recommended approval of this going through the upset bid process at their November 12th meeting. There's just some concepts. There's actually some more recent renderings that they've come up with, but these are the ones I had this afternoon to put in. You can see just some of the concepts that they're anticipating in creating an environment for not only their members of their church, but it would be open to the public. So then we're left with, if this were to come to pass, so we need a dog park, but we would recommend creating 2 new dog parks that are more conveniently located. One on the south side of town, closer to downtown neighborhoods, and one on the north side of town, closer to the northeast and northwest neighborhoods, really where the population centers are, residential population in Hickory. So those 2 parks would be Hickory Optimist Park on the south side, and within a 2-mile radius of Hickory Optimist, there's about close to 20,000 people. Bruce Meisner Park on the north side is close to 16,000 people within a 2-mile radius. So that's about 35,000 to 36,000 people, and those are city residents within those 2-mile radiuses. And Hickory's got 45,000 people, so it would be more convenient in terms of taking your dog out to the park. Hickory Optimist is there's underutilized space at Hickory Optimist. There's a playground and pickleball courts. But there's also a softball field that has not been utilized for years, and that's what would be changed into a dog park. And on Bruce Meisner, right now there's the walking trail and the picnic shelter and bathrooms, but if you're facing Bruce Meisner, there's a large space to the left-hand side, open space. That would be the area that we would look at for developing a dog park at that location. So what we would go through the budget process for the 2 dog parks and take the if successful, take the $425,000 and bank that for replacement of the park acreage we're selling. So we'd earmark that for future park property purchase in an area that is highly residential but is underserved by parks. So we just be strategic in utilizing those funds. And just as a side note, since the approval of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan a year ago, we've been developing recommendations on adding new amenities to a number of underutilized city parks. City Council has expressed a desire to put a splash pad in each quadrant. We've been looking at that. Where does it make sense? What would the cost be? Obviously, pickleball is a popular sport. And there's other niche types of activities and amenities that we're looking to add. We've probably got a half a dozen parks that are underutilized from their what they're capable of doing. So those are the ones we'd be focused on. And we're going to come back through the budget process and fine tune that and make a recommendation on what that might look like. So staff recommends approval of the resolution to begin the upset bid process and the sale of the property if the iChurch bid is successful. And again, if the iChurch bid is upset with a higher bid, we'll bring the details of what that looks like back to City Council so you can decide if you want to move forward with that one or not. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. And there's a resolution that's the action to be taken.
What would be the time frame to, if this goes through, to have this developed so that we would not lose any dog parks?
We would not be without a dog park. Fairgrove would be probably a year time frame. Fairgrove would be still, Fairbrook Dog Park would still be operational during that time, so there wouldn't be a gap between, us developing the new property and selling the property. And our church has agreed to that.
What is the utilization of that current dog park? Is it
Well,
utilized well?
when you look at the geofencing numbers, they're really high, but it's picking up the iChurch.
Oh,
You can't differentiate between, who's iChurch and who's dog park. I mean, I've been driving by there during the day, and there may be, and it's more on the weekend, but there's not that much activity down there during the day. But people do use it. I know Mr. Wood said there's a group that meets down there. I mean, so it's an important, amenity for folks, but we would not put ourselves in a position to go for a period of time with not having an option as far as dog parks.
So since approving this, since initiating this process will eliminate the dog park, supposedly, whether iChurch gets it or not, is the $25,000 contingent upon them winning the bid, or are they going to put that money in to a dog park, give it to us to invest in dog parks, since this action is basically going to eliminate that dog park?
They are doing it, and I talked to Tim about this, because they came back after they made the initial offer, and it got too complicated to go in and add the $25,000 to their purchase price. But upon successful sale and prior to successful, we would not close until we got the $25,000 donation. But they wouldn't, their intention would not be, I don't think, to give the donation unless they were successful. Although I will say they have been very interested in, and Steve and I have met with some of the folks at that church in participating in improving parks and doing things as community service types of activities. But that's outside of this.
so would their total bid, the competitive price would be $425?
400.
400, okay.
We were going to add it, but the legal folks said it was too complicated, so they just did it in the form. But I would imagine if their bid is upset, depending on what the upset number is, that they would roll that $25,000 into, if they move to upset that bid, into the $400,000 number.
Any other questions for Mr. Wood?
Just one last one, and we would do some marketing out there to let people know that do use the park, of where the new locations are, timing, those types of things, correct?
Absolutely. And have some renderings of what it's going to look like. And
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Hey, any other questions? I'll make a motion that we proceed with the process to adopt a resolution and authorize staff to advertise for upset bids.
Second.
Okay? We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, that carries unanimously. Our second departmental report tonight, once again, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Warner.
Second departmental report is the finance report for the first quarter of 24-25, presented by Deputy City Manager and Chief Financial Officer Rodney Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Greetings, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Swanson. Thanks for having me tonight. Tonight I will give you the first quarter of our fiscal year financial report, July through September of 2024. This mic seems different for me. Sorry about that. Tonight, I'll also say, obviously, whenever I give this presentation, we're kind of crossing fiscal years, so you still haven't seen the fiscal year-end audit for 23-24. We actually have an audit committee meeting this Friday with a number of you on council that our auditors will give you a presentation, and then we expect at your first December meeting to give you the results of our audit. Our audit firm will come and present that, answer any questions that you may have. So I just want to share that with you in addition to my report tonight. On the screens, you will see that obviously this is the city's general fund, our main operating fund. That's September 30th. That's the first 3 months of the fiscal year. Total revenues were a little over $19.5 million. Our annual budget for the general fund through September is $85.3 million. You can see last year's number there on the far right-hand side of the screen, $18.6 million through September of last year. We're 25% of the year complete. Total expenditures are a little higher, $20.5 million, again on an $85 million budget, and that is up from last year's $18.3. If you were to close the books today, which of course we don't do, but you see we're about $950,000 revenues under expenditures. Why is that? Well, a couple of things are really at play there. Number one, on the expenditure side, you'll recall that all of our $40 million in bond funds have already been let. So those 3 bond sales, the debt service is due October 1st. So we have paid all 3 bond sale principal payments in September. So those are reflected in that number. That's the primary driver of why that number was so high so far through the year. I guess a couple of projects I'll mention as well, since we were talking about Parks and Rec projects. We, as Ms. Patton knows, we did some Shuford House renovations recently, so those expenditures are in that number. Mr. Seaver, these aren't particular council members, but I recognize you and talk about Kiwanis. We've made some improvements out at Kiwanis Park. And then the third is we did a clubhouse addition out at LP France Stadium. Major League Baseball had some requirements that we had to do, so we had to add a female locker room, female umpires, and an added clubhouse for a visiting team, and that turned out really well. If you haven't seen that, take a look at that next time you're out there. So that has caused those expenditures this year to be a little higher than our revenues. And then finally, I'll mention, as you know, our property tax revenue is the largest source of revenue the city has. Those major dollars really won't start coming in until November and December. November, typically your mortgage companies that folks escrow with will pay those taxes. And then December and January are the 2 largest months that we get in property tax revenues. So no concerns there, I think, is the message. Here is a slide of our property tax revenue. You see we're almost $10.3 million. You see this slide has gone up, which is good. We have budgeted revenues of about $40 million, and again, through the first 3 months, we're a little over $10 million. We will receive the bulk of the revenues by January 5th of 2025. Probably 90 to 95% of that will come in by that first week of January. So it's good to see those revenues continue to increase. I've got a slide on some of the development that we all are aware of. That development drives property tax revenues. Obviously, it drives services, but it also drives the revenues that we use to provide those services to our residents and visitors. Sales tax, we do have a little blip. Look at the far right-hand corner for the first time on one of these presentations. We do have a little slippage in the first 3 months of our sales tax. Look at the first 3 bars, if you will. Those first 3, or like the second and the third, 22 and 23, those were internet sales, online sales that slowly captured over a 2-year period into the city's coffers, and we had some significant sales tax increases during that time. Sadly to say, that has now been cooked into the cake, so to speak, so really the increases we're going to be seeing is the development. Are those retail stores, and I'll go through a few of those on an upcoming slide, as people spend more money in the restaurants, the retail businesses, et cetera. So I'm expecting us to still have an increase this year, but it was interesting to see that we did have a slight increase, at least September of this year compared to September of last year. We are expecting about $17 million in revenues. I'll also add, we budget very conservatively on our sales tax revenues. We budgeted this year what we actually collected last year. So we don't budget any growth in our sales tax revenues. Here's the building permit activity slide I was mentioning. You'll see on the residential side, our permit numbers are up 15%, 177 residential permits. Brian Frazier's office does a great job of working with those and the numbers associated with this. You'll see on the commercial side, we did have some slippage on the number of permits. The more important chart is there on the residential value. You see we're about $7 million higher in residential value through September, and there is a significant decrease in the commercial side. Again, that's not a decrease in activity, that's timing. So last year, July through September, we had a couple of large projects. Just when they pull their permit with Catawba County, that is what this slide shows. I feel very confident that we will make up those numbers throughout the rest of the year with the development that we're seeing in the pipeline. That being said, I'm almost out of room on this slide with all the development projects you'll see. Most of these are of the residential variety down this left-hand side. Some of the larger ones, you'll see the Hamptons, the old Hampton Heights Golf Course. They've now started building some homes there. Preston Ridge over there off of Startown Road, Stonebrook off Catawba Valley Boulevard, Flowers Ridge, Sandy Ridge Road. You see there's 2 hotels that are currently under construction, which we haven't had in a long time. That's wonderful. And then Bear Park, which is also off of Sandy Ridge Road. Interestingly, I just came from the NCDOT meeting over on 29th Avenue, and there's well over 100 folks in attendance at the Highland Rec Center, because you're having a lot of activity, and DOT knows this is coming, so they're trying to prepare for the traffic. I know you folks get a lot of questions and sometimes comments, maybe not so nice, about traffic. Certainly, most of our roads are NCDOT, and the large roads that are in that area, that's why NCDOT is having that meeting tonight.
I will say that the meeting was supposed to start, because I went by early, and it was supposed to start at 5. They said people were there at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it was.
There was a line.
Attended at 4:30 when I went.
So they had 10 representatives there, so they had a good number of staff and answering a lot of folks' questions. You'll see there, and again, I mentioned permits. When Microsoft pulls their permit, that's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars. So again, I don't know exactly the timing of that for the Hickory project, but that will be a large building permit as well. On the right-hand side, one thing of note, you'll see these 3. So we're getting 3 car washes. I know we're all excited about that. And another one that has had some kind of, notice is the Red Barn property. They started grading a little bit of that this week, I've been told. Jim and Nick's Barbecue, I've heard, is very good, so the mayor was out there. So again, we've got a lot of development in the pipeline and under construction. On our water and sewer fund, the city's about a little over $40 million in the annual budget. We've collected about 1/4 of that, $10.2 million, so we're on track there. A little higher than last year at this time. Our expenditures are a little lower. I wouldn't read too much into that. A lot of that is cyclical as to when we do some of our capital projects and at what time of the year we do those. Plus, they have some debt payments as well, and they have not been made yet. But at this point, we're $2 million revenues over expenditures, but that will probably flip by the time our second quarter report runs, when I'm next in front of you. Typically, our expenditures exceed our revenues for the first 2 or 3 quarters until those summer months come in. And then finally, our investment report. A good report here where our weighted average yield of our investments is a little over 3.5%. All told, we have $116 million, 0.7 in investments. You see the breakdown between commercial paper and government agency securities. We did add under local government investment pools. The state of North Carolina has now authorized 3 different local government investment pools, very safe pools, more like a money market account, but we are now investing in 3 of those, which diversifies our funds even further. And you see that we have some treasury bonds as well of about 4% of our portfolio. That's all I had for you tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Miller? All right. You must have done a really good job. I didn't have any Tony didn't even have any questions.
I'm shocked.
You must have done a really good job.
We'll talk about it offline.
No.
No, it was excellent, excellent. Thank you.
All right, we don't need to take any action related to that financial report. That was just for information only. At this time, I'll ask if there's any member of council that would like to make any appointments or recommendations for our boards and commissions. Do we have any appointments this evening? We still have some vacancies, not that many, but a few. So if there's anything here that you may be interested in, you can, of course, apply for that. The easiest way to do that is online. And if you have any questions, you can ask any of us, and we'll be happy to help you to navigate through that. So there's no appointments this evening? Okay. All right. Let's see. Next item is, we have any matters not on the agenda, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. General comments. I have a few, so I'll get us started here. I attended the Veterans Day ceremony, the annual Veterans Day ceremony at the Elks Lodge on November the 11th, and I want to mention they every year they honor what they call VIP veterans. This year, the 2024 recipients of the VIP veterans were well known to the folks here in the city of Hickory. Reverend David Roberts, he's retired, of course, Lieutenant U.S. Navy, was honored, and also many of you probably know Walt Thomas. He is U.S. Navy retired as well, Chief Petty Officer. He's the fellow that used to see quite frequently, particularly south of town on the lawnmower, picking up litter and all that kind of thing, helping mow people's grass that couldn't mow people's grass. But both of them retired U.S. Navy, and they were both recognized as the 2024 VIP veterans by the Elks Lodge. I said all that to say this: every year, the Elks Lodge presents us with the flag, the City of Hickory flag, at Oakwood Cemetery. It's called Soldier's Plot, and each and every year, the Elks Lodge retires that flag and presents the City of Hickory with a new flag to be flown throughout the year. So I'll make sure that that gets to the proper folks to be able to retire the old flag and to be able to put up the new flag. So we appreciate that from the Elks Lodge, of course. Let's see, Mr. Miller mentioned in his presentation the renovations to Shuford House, and it just so happens that I also was honored to attend an award ceremony from the Historic Preservation Committee, and they present the Hickory Landmark Society presented this award, and I accepted it on behalf of the City of Hickory in recognition of the outstanding preservation effort at the Abel A. Shuford House. So I would imagine that those funds that were spent probably likely contributed to us receiving, we were one of 4 awards that were presented by the Landmark Society for Historic Preservation. So I'll make sure that the proper folks get that as well. Just a couple little reminders, of course, coming up this week. Friday is the Christmas parade. That's always extremely popular. I know there's over 100 entries this year. It starts promptly at 5:30, is that correct? 5:30-ish, 5:30, 6 o'clock? 5:45. 5:45, well, I was close. All right.
You gotta be ready to go.
So we always look forward to that. I think the City of Hickory always kicks off the Christmas holidays. I know everybody always says, "Why do you have it before Thanksgiving?" And then we have 100,000 people show up. So it's always a really good hit. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the other thing, the Historic Ridgeview Walk, we'll be opening that and having the official ribbon cutting on that for November the 26th at 10:30 in the morning. So obviously everyone's invited.
It should be 11.
11? Okay, 11. I got 10:30. I was going to be there early. So 11 o'clock, and of course everyone's invited. We've been looking forward to that, the grand opening as well. That'll be the 4th of our walks that'll be completed. And of course, Ole Art Walk is under construction somebody's probably going to ask, we're still waiting, Riverwalk's still temporarily closed. We're waiting on the custom-made railing for that. As soon as we can get that here, we'll get that back repaired and let you know when that'll open back up. I know that was a lot. That's all I have for this evening, so I'll ask if any other member of council has any general comments that they'd like to make.
Nope, you done stole my,
Oh, I didn't
thunder,
mean
so
to do
you-
that, sir.
No, you did good.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't
forget.
forget anything.
No, you're good.
Historic Ridgeview Walk.
Yes, yes.
I apologize.
Come out,
Yeah.
November 26th.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I guess they're.
The Sammy Davis Senior Multi-Purpose Field.
Field, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Because we
Thanks-
won't be back until, yeah.
Happy Turkey Day.
I got one thing. So
Okay,
in
go ahead,
case
sir.
anybody got a letter in the
Oh,
mail
about the water.
about your water service lines and lead pipes, that's required by the EPA under some new rules that they have. It does not mean that there's lead in the water. In fact, we've done an assessment of our side of the service line, and we found no lead pipes. So we're asking residents, there's a survey that, if you haven't gotten it, there's a letter and a survey to indicate whether, and there's a way you can tell that you can identify if you have a lead pipe or not. But the EPA is requiring that we identify all lead pipes in our service lines, and that's what that is.
And I'm sure some of the other council members have had calls as well as I have to explain that.
Well, we got inundated with phone calls. We had 5 people answering the telephone, and we had 300 calls in the first, so we have adjusted, thanks to IT, we've adjusted our system to be able to capture their numbers in a message and call them back, so.
Well, that's good. I only had a half a dozen or so. All right, anything else? Any other remarks?
So Hickory High's football team is still in the
They're
playoffs.
champion-
They'll be having a
Conference
game.
champions?
They won the conference championship again. They're still undefeated. And Statesville will be coming back for a playoff game this time,
Okay.
Friday night. So after the parade, there'll still be some football.
I don't want to jinx them, but they haven't lost since last year, so.
No, we haven't lost since the year before last.
The year before last. Wow,
Wow.
that's quite the record. Anybody else? All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
One more.
All right.
One more for the road, as it
Thank you for being here.